All right, well, let me do the official introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, we are very excited to welcome our featured guest for this evening. She is an amazing actress and now an author as well. We're very excited to welcome the one and only Sherilyn Fenn to the show. You're on the air with Terry and Tiffany. Welcome.
Hi, Terry and Tiffany. How are you doing?
We're good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good, thank you.
Well, you know, you mentioned dolls, and that's why I said yes like I did. Do you not make Audrey dolls?
We made Audrey dolls, and much to my dismay, a big, fat corporate company who shall remain nameless killed the Audrey doll. And so I have decided that now we're going to birth just a Sherilyn doll.
There you go.
Yeah, because it's like
it looks the same.
Shoes, and it doesn't matter that David wrote the role for me. No, that doesn't matter. That the role was not that Audrey Horne was not in the original script.
Right.
Okay, Northwest Passage, which then became Twin Peaks. David met women for different roles. A week later, called and said he's writing you a role. Anyway? I'm going to get in trouble.
Well, I don't want that to happen
because I'm very blunt and honest, and
yes.
I have been asked to not say these things that I've already found myself saying.
Well, then let's just stop because we don't want to get.
I did want to tell you, Sherilyn.
So Audrey doll, I'm going to make Sherilyn dolls, and what's neat about that is I've been in Gilmore Girls. I've done all kinds of jobs.
Yes,
I've have a career for 33 years.
Yes,
and whether it's Audrey or Curly's wife in Of Mice and Men or the Elizabeth Taylor story, it still is me. So,
that's right. and Audrey looks a lot like Sherilyn, so I mean, buy the Sherilyn doll. And
right, so some of the questions coming in, because we got tons of questions coming in. The first question, this is from Dave. He says, for the past 10 years, there's been a lot of enthusiasm and renewed interest in Twin Peaks from young people in their teens and 20s. Has this taken you by surprise that it's found yet another generation?
25 years later.
It has totally and completely shocked me. When people come up, I say, "How old are you?" They're like 19. I'm like, "You are younger than my child. What are you doing here?" We love your character. Yes. And the neatest thing about it is when I started acting, someone wise, said that cliche, but cliches are there for a reason. Great work stands the test of time.
Mm-hmm.
And to be a part of something that people still care about, and that, with all the choices of, things there are to watch, that people watched it, and then that she became somebody special. I don't understand it, but I have a lot of gratitude because I put a lot of my heart in it, and a lot of my clothes in it, and a lot of my words. I would say something, and next week it's in the script. Okay, so that people like it and like her. A girl from Michigan who is not sure she's very lovable. It feels pretty good.
Of
course, with David Lynch, you can't really lose. He's a genius.
Right.
You had a lot of great
genius.
Special effects in that show were tremendous. But one thing I want to make sure wasn't a special effect. Can you really tie a cherry stem with your tongue?
Oh, good Lord.
There's the question. 3 times during filming, David Letterman kept asking me to come on the show, and I was like, no way am I going on. I'm not a real public person. Can I now? Yes. Could I then? No. And when I did it, Mark Frost directed that episode. I'm like, this is really stupid. He's like, that's what people do in college. I said, well, I wouldn't know because I'm a high school dropout. This is stupid. And, but then it turned into this thing, and I don't know.
My favorite scene ever, and then we got to go to more questions, is when you're at One-Eyed Jack's, you're the Bordello brothel, and you accidentally have an encounter with your father, and you're not wanting to let him know that you're his daughter, and you're wearing a mask and everything. That had to be hilarious.
Well, Richard Beamer, what was it like working with him? I mean, he is insanely talented. What was he like on set?
He's great, and so much fun, and lively, and game, and ready for anything, and he's great. He's a silly, fun, wonderful man. That scene to me was I was like, oh, the worst nightmare. Can you imagine, your dad? I mean, oh my God, awful.
All right.
I'm glad it turned out well, because as far as Laura Palmer and her dad, they didn't turn out so well. That was, as we saw in Fire Walking.
I'm telling you, there's a theme there or something. What's that about? I don't know.
To know that show's coming back after going that taboo, I mean, telling you, that's...
All right.
I know.
The next question from the listeners. This is actually, I have some more coming in that's not about Twin Peaks, but this is one more Twin Peaks one. They just said, I know that Sherilyn is good friends with Sheryl Lee, but I don't think their characters ever appeared in the same scenes during the original run. How did that friendship develop?
Because the very first, we were shooting at the Great Northern, and to be because down on close by that particular set was where they ended up finding Laura, wrapped in plastic and everything. Mm. So we met on the set and just clicked right away. And I love Sheryl Lee. Sheryl Lee has a heart of gold. She's such a good, wonderful, beautiful soul. And we've always stayed friends. And she went and had a baby boy and was like, I did it because you said it was so great and you were right, and but we just totally clicked. She was so sweet and still is, just completely genuine, and was like, I can't even believe I'm here. He just picked my picture out of nowhere and said, that's Laura Palmer, and so,
well, we know
we met on the set for sure.
We know you can't talk about the new Twin Peaks, and we don't want to get you in trouble, and we won't get you in trouble because we love you, but are we safe to ask, because we do know you are involved in some way, and I won't ask you in what way or how extensive or what you do, but a question from Al out there, Astro L, is what was it like when you were back on set of the new show after that long a time? Was it more like a reunion? I know you guys did a thing with old cast members in a kind of a takeoff on a show called Psych, Dual Spires. But
that was more of a reunion. That was so much fun doing Dual Spires. Oh my gosh, we had such a great time. What was it like?
Yeah, coming back to Twin Peaks.
For me, it was like a dream come true. I mean, I had hoped, and I didn't think it was ever going to happen. I'm really good friends with Jennifer, David's daughter. She's been really a dear friend in my life ever. She wrote and directed Boxing Helena.
Yes.
And that's when we got close. And she always said it wasn't going to happen, that he wasn't going to do it. So I was in complete shock that it was happening. It was a dream. It's a dream come true, I mean, because for me personally, I thought the second season lost its way a little bit, and for my opinion, to have David come back and do all 18, and that's why we fought for him,
right?
Because first he was doing 9, and he called Easter Sunday and said he's out, and I had a lot of swearing going on at that point. Jesus hadn't come in yet and said stop it, and I said I'm not doing anything if you're not doing it, and we got right to work, and the fans came through again. The fans came through. They aired the pilot. They weren't going to do any shows. Mm-hmm. The fans wrote in.
Yeah.
Okay? The fans wrote in, then they did 7 episodes. So they saved us that time. This time, David, they say, yes. Well, isn't that out there already? So I can't get in trouble. So he's going to write. He wrote 9, and then it seemed like he felt like there was more. There was more. Like he felt like it was incomplete. So when he wanted to do more, they said no, because it was probably like not 9, 18. That would be double everything, right?
Right.
So he said, well, then I'm not doing it. And I think some people, not myself at all, were saying they were going to do it without him, which is, how could you ever do that?
Yeah, right.
So we got really, 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 really verbal, and I got Machen, and we all got together, and we made tapes, and then the fans, I think, made it happen. Like, social media went crazy, and then they let him do all the episodes. So we're in for a ride. I mean, I don't even,
Without getting into details, I think it's probably just safe to say that Audrey did not get blown up in the bank.
You don't know that.
Well, maybe she did.
You'll
have to tune in to find out. I don't know if she got blown up or not.
Well, what she didn't do is die in the bank. That we do know. Even Mark said it in his book. And when I saw that script, I was so upset. I said, what do you do? He said, we wouldn't kill Audrey. He said, we had that's a cliffhanger, Sherilyn Fenn. It's a cliffhanger. I'm like, oh, God. Okay. So, yeah.
Well, we hope they use you wisely, because where the show, the originals, this is my opinion, okay? It's not your opinion. It may be your opinion, but you don't have to comment. And that is, the show did lose its way a little bit and lost its way when they stopped the thing between you and Cooper. Because you guys were magic together. You really were.
Agreed, and it wasn't a plan. He was. The funniest thing is, everything about Audrey was not a plan.
Right.
And I think it confused people, the people that were making it. She wasn't in the script initially. She wasn't in the story initially. She wasn't supposed to be with Dale Cooper initially. She wasn't supposed to get nominated for anything initially. She wasn't supposed to somehow. And I feel like, it's not me, it's not him, it's not. I feel like that's the Lord. Right. I feel like that the Lord said, I have put you in a position for 33 years for a reason.
Right.
Okay? So I needed you to grow and do this stuff, and I was not meant to be in Fire Walk with Me. Okay? Not meant to be in that movie. And my sweet David was very angry. But I got cast in Of Mice and Men.
Right.
I mean, I'm sorry.
It's
what
an
amazing role. John Malkovich, Of Mice and Men. I felt like I was a real actress. I'm working with John Malkovich.
Yeah,
oh my God. I tested for it. It was a big deal for me to be a part of that. These are theater actors from Steppenwolf in Chicago. I mean, I could cry when I saw John Malkovich.
Right.
I'm sorry, he's amazing. So I was not meant to. I feel like the Lord's hand was in every single step of the way. I was not meant to be in that movie. I was meant to be in this movie. I was meant to do this. So, yeah, he was. I was just, just have Audrey say hi to, Dale Cooper because he's staying at the Great Northern.
Right.
They were going to go have him be with Joan Chen.
Right.
But we all know the story, which I
Yeah.
guess I said before other people did and wasn't supposed to. But, yeah, that's what happened, and they changed it for really strange reasons. And but even that was meant to be, I guess. Right. I don't know, because it happened, right?
I'm sure Billy Zane's character was happy about how it wound up.
Yes, he was very happy about that.
So Kimmy is going to be here.
Well, she's not going to be here.
Well, I wish she was. So she's not glamping anymore.
She's not. She's leaving a racetrack.
A racetrack.
A racetrack.
Okay.
Oh, Kimmy's always fun.
She always goes where you least expect her to be. Who would think she'd be at a racetrack?
Why not?
She's there seeing Morris Day in the Time?
I doubt it.
We were there at a racetrack one time.
We did. We went to Hollywood Park and saw Morris Day in the Time. Many years ago. All right.
So she's going to be doing the interview from her car?
Yes. So we'll see how that goes.
Well, at least I got Kimmy Robertson in her car. I really do wish I was there, though.
All right, so let's go ahead and give Kimmy a call.
Just give me a break, people. I am in love with her. Okay. I'm like, I'm 5.
Hello?
Hi, is this Kimmy?
Yes, it is.
All right, well, let me do the official introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, we are very excited to welcome our featured guest for this evening. She is an actress and a dancer, and somebody you will fondly remember as Lucy from the famous show Twin Peaks. We're very excited to welcome Kimmy Robertson to the show. You're on the air live with Terry and Tiffany. Welcome.
Hi, thank you.
Well, you know, I just got done telling... I think we lost her.
Lost her.
Right when I was giving my first question. It went bloop. Shit. Okay, try it again. She is in the car.
You know what I just did?
What'd you do?
I was turning, and I pushed the wrong button.
It happens. It happens.
Now, I see if you would have had a donut in one hand, you wouldn't
have
You know,
that would have helped.
I actually saw Twin Peaks the other day. I'm pretty much of a new fan, so I'm a Twin Peaks virgin. But I've never seen a donut layout like that in my life. You had an incredible layout. I've got to know if you laid those donuts out yourself.
Oh, no, I didn't. And when I walked in that afternoon, he had me by the shoulders and made me keep my eyes closed and walked me through the door of the office. And he said, okay, now open them, Lucy. And I opened them and I screamed and jumped and...
Did you
eat them? Like I do.
Right.
I gotta know if you ate. I gotta know if you ate the donuts.
Oh no, I didn't eat those. No.
You know why?
No, we couldn't eat those. They had to be there in their place. You know, they were working donuts. You can't eat working donuts.
Oh, well, yeah, working donuts. You can't mess with. Yeah, I do know for a fact why you may not have ate them, though. In fact, of the truth that you couldn't eat the props. I know that you would have liked it better if they would have had turkey sandwiches.
What? I'm not sure I know what that means.
Well, you remember when you came out with Diane Franklin? We'd asked you what to feed you.
I asked for turkey sandwiches. That was the year that all I ate was turkey sandwiches when I ate. I have some kind of Aspergery disorder, and I eat one thing for long periods of time, wear the same clothes, things like that.
But it couldn't have been a weight thing, 'cause you look great.
No, it has to do with being crazy.
You know something? If you're crazy, I wish everybody was crazy, because I think you're a sweet girl. I really do.
Thank you, Jerry.
So, Laura Palmer comes into the show. Laura Palmer dies. We're used to her being gone. Now we're going to hear they're going to start a new show. In a way, Laura Palmer's dead again, even though she was already dead. What is going on here? Because I don't know how much you know about this, but when did you first find out Showtime was going to revive Twin Peaks?
Okay, so that was a lot of content, Terry. Question, when did I find out that Showtime was going to do it?
Yeah, when did you first find out? Maybe it was a rumor. I don't know if maybe you heard from David Lynch's daughter, because I know you're a friend of hers. How did you find out there might be another Twin Peaks?
Well, 2 years ago, or 2.5 years ago, I heard something about it, and I asked Jennifer Lynch what was happening. I heard that they might bring it back, and we were texting. And she said, yeah, I heard that from Dad. And then I wrote, can I call you? Because you're not allowed to call anyone in L.A., you know, unless you ask. And so she said, yes, I guess. Anyway, so I pulled over and I called her and said, what? And she said, well, Mark Fox came to one of his art shows somewhere, like Philadelphia or something, and they had dinner and they had ideas. And I said, okay, and I started to cry because I figured it would be like on the CW and starring no one over the age of 17.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know why I just thought that So she said, oh, no, he won't do it unless it's right. So then around October of last year, I just was having these feelings that something was about to happen, something really big. And I was over at her house, and I said, there's a lot of stuff that's really shitty right now, but I really have this feeling something's going to happen. And she said, what do you mean? So I feel like I'm going to be working soon on something really, really cool. Something that, like, exceeds everybody's expectations of coolness. Mm-hmm. And that it's going to be somebody I've already worked for. And I mean, I wasn't hinting. I didn't even think about her dad or that it was... I just had this really strong intuition about it. And she said, looking away from me, which I thought was odd. So, like, someone you had a previous working relationship with. And I said, yeah, like that. So my understanding that she was trying to hide her face to keep from laughing at me. So, then, like, a week or so later, she left to go to Atlanta, and I was asleep. It was 7:30 in the morning, and above me, looking down at me as I was sleeping, I could see David Lynch and his assistant, Sabrina, looking down at me, smiling these huge smiles. And I opened my eyes, and of course they disappeared. I closed them, there they were. Opened, they disappeared. Closed them, there they were. Opened them and went, what the fuck? I hear this voice in my head say, open your iPad mini. And I don't do that first thing. That's not what I do, but it just kept saying it. So I did, and I saw like 8,000 messages, and I slammed it shut. I didn't read one of them. I just slammed it shut. And then I got a text from Sabrina, David's assistant, saying, can I call you?
Wow.
And they had asked me for Harry's phone number, Harry Goaz, the guy who plays Andy. Mm-hmm. And I said, I'm not allowed to give it to anyone but David, so I guess you're kind of like David, so okay.
Right.
So you have to promise me you can't give it to anybody else. So they said, well, we're honored that you trust us that much. I said, yeah, kind of. So that's how that happened. I mean, she called and said, David's in Paris. He can't get his Skype thing to work right, the connection. And he wanted to talk to you and ask you to be in the show and that it's happening, it's really happening, and that we're going to have a lot of fun.
At any point, did you ever receive a script?
No. Oh, no. Honey, that's hysterical. You're funny.
Well, thank you.
Well, one of the reasons we were asking is because, and of course, 99% of what you read online is usually not what it seems. But with all of the controversy that's been going on the past week, between David Lynch and Showtime, there have been articles that had mentioned that the only person that was confirmed to work on the show was Kyle MacLachlan. Is that true?
I don't know if that's true. I think that I heard that Kyle has a contract, but that's not really how David Lynch works. Mm-hmm. So maybe that's how Kyle has to work or something, and maybe it's not true, but everyone that I know doesn't know the answer to that question.
Right.
Except David and Sabrina. So
right.
I didn't ask them.
I would think it'd be safe to say, knowing David Lynch, that he's a repertory kind of guy and likes to work with the same people again. It would be pretty safe to say that he'd use as many as he could.
Well, yeah, I think he wanted to have everybody that he could get back and have it be 25 years later.
Right. Now, we read the post by David Lynch when he said he had to walk away, and I thought it was very gentlemanly of him to not blame Showtime. And he had said that he was going to call all of the actors. Do you know who he might have called?
He called me, and I'm going over a really loud bridge in Ventura. It's brand new, but they made it somehow so it sounds like it's playing a song. Anyway, he called me, and I was very upset and posted something not too nice on my Facebook page. Mm-hmm. And then I got more upset and posted something else not very nice. And then my iPad mini, I was in Las Vegas. My computer froze because it was like 5,000 unread emails. And he called me back, well, his assistant did, and asked me not to post anything else because now he had to issue a statement, which I guess he was going to do the next day. Mm-hmm. But because I overreacted and, started pointing fingers everywhere, he had to say the statement before he finished calling everybody.
I would have done what you did. That would have been me. I would have told.
I would do it over again in a heartbeat.
Oh.
I mean, it's rotten.
Well, let me ask you a question, and I know you're a very honest person, and if you don't want to answer, you don't have to, but it's up to you. In knowing how it's so hard getting work these days, and in knowing that is such a precious project, I mean, everybody loves it so much, in knowing that David says now he is not going to be the director, if they had someone else direct, would you still do it?
I kind of doubt that would happen at all. I mean, that they would do it without him. I mean, I don't really think that you can answer a question that is going to happen. Mm-hmm. Let me put it that way.
Right. Well,
are you still there?
Yes,
I'm hearing funny sounds.
No, we're still here. Let me ask you this, okay. Kimmy. I mean, what has the feedback been like? I mean, I'm imagining from the thousands of messages you're getting that it's been overwhelming, but what has the feedback been like in basically the past week since it was kind of announced that Lynch wasn't going to be involved with the project?
Well, I've been getting, like, people saying why and, like, asking for, like, more clarity, and it's just strictly a budget thing, as far as I understood, that they weren't going to give him enough money to make the show work. Like, the budget wasn't enough. Like, right. You'd have to be done with stick figures or puppets or something.
Right.
But, feedback, I mean, golly, I've gotten so many ideas, people calling and saying, I want to give money, let's do a Kickstarter, or let's do, I mean, I didn't even know there was millions of different kinds of Kickstarter things.
Right.
And a friend of mine said, well, if every fan gave $10, would that be enough? It's just been so lovely. And I think, though, that the fans shouldn't have to actually pay for it. I think that, and then Showtime, make double the money. I think Showtime should pay for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so do I. It's just, through this whole thing, however it turns out, and I pray to God it turns out for you, because we really do love you, Kimmy. We think you're a great person, and you're so great on the show. And you deserve this, and so does everybody else deserve this, and the fans deserve it. It's just this whole idea, how can you do that show without David Lynch? And Showtime is just basically being stupid. I mean, how can they be so crazy as to think that, it's not going to be the same, and then it's going to fail, and then they'll blame somebody else. It'll be their fault.
Yeah, it's really stunningly amazing to me that in all the times of of the planet that humans have been here, that they still are so incredibly fearful they're going to lose some money when they make art. You know, it doesn't... We're still going to be here the next day, even if they did lose the money. I mean, it's like, really? They still... Really? We're still like that?
Yeah. Right.
No, I'll tell you...
Well,
too much fear.
Yes, exactly. One of the things that we wanted to talk about is to let listeners know who maybe have been living under a rock for the past week and don't know about it, is that there is an official Twin Peaks Facebook page that is run by the Twin Peaks cast, where you guys are all getting together, and it's really kind of a Save Twin Peaks campaign, right?
Yes, it is. It was, on Sunday we started that. All of us started texting, mass texting, and I know I was talking to Dana Ashbrook, and he said, what the hell? And I said, I know, we said, no, no David Lynch, no Twin Peaks, man. And like, yeah, man. We got all angry and testosterone-y, and then we all were talking and finally went, okay, we gotta take a high road here and just love Showtime into giving David what he needs, and so that's why we did that video. Everybody sent in a video, and I did mine without makeup.
You look good. You look good. You look better than everybody else to me. So,
my God!
You really got.
Don't tell anybody that I paid you to say that.
You really got something special, Kimmy. You got a gift. Let me tell you about the gift you got. Most actors don't realize how much they are appreciated by their fans while they're alive.
Yes.
You know now.
It's amazing.
Yeah,
it's so amazing, and the other thing, it's all of the cast. I mean, we've all been getting together like every other week for months now, and that has been a huge gift. It's just it's so much love and so unusual for everybody in a cast to love each other and be. I mean, it's like we get together and are encouraging each other and saying, oh, I can help with that, or I know the answer to that. I mean, just being, it's like a love-in or something, but for real. It's not, drug-induced. And, and it's not so we can get laid, because, but it's like real. It's really been cool. That's been really cool. And that's all David. He dials in the source of everything, and that's love, I think. And then we just hop on.
Well, it'd be cool. This thing keeps going, and maybe you guys will even get together and do like little mini conventions or something and keep that going in front of the fans there. Or maybe you guys can get together and start doing more interviews, radio and TV as a cast, and who knows what's going to happen.
That would be fun.
Absolutely.
I wish that's true. I hope that's true.
Well, anytime you guys want to get together and hang out over here, we've moved now, so we'll tell you later on where we are. But we're a little closer to you now. We would love to have you guys all around talking about what really has... I'm just, like I said, I'm a new fan. I didn't watch it before. My friend Ghosty, he actually interviewed you on his radio station on WFDU.
Oh, yeah.
And he told me, he's like, you got to watch this show. It is. It's incredible. And I love your character. And I love your character, and I love you even more. I think you're a lot like your character. I really do.
Thank you. I'd like to be, well, my hair's not naturally curly, so there.
Yeah.
Well, the last question before we wrap this up, Kimmy, because I know you're driving, and I don't want to keep you for too long, but the one question that all of our listeners have been asking us to ask you is that while I know that you probably haven't seen a script, as you mentioned, and maybe you have no idea what David might have had in mind for Lucy, if you had to guess what your character was going to be doing in the new Twin Peaks, where do you see Lucy 25 years later?
oh boy. I think she had a son that's really cute and is a young, cute actor, although actor. That's just, I'm sorry, I was being bad.
Why do I feel like Kimmy might need to casting couch these actors who would play her son?
Yes. I have to find the connection, and that might take a long time.
You know, I read that because, like I said, I'm just now watching the show, and I read that your character gets pregnant, and you don't know who the father is, and I'm thinking Kimmy wouldn't do that.
No.
All right.
No, I don't know. I think I really don't have I don't know. The one thing that comes to me is so silly. It's like she runs for the mayor or something and gets the city organized.
That would be awesome.
I have no imaginative answer. I'm sorry.
No.
Well, if this whole Twin Peaks thing don't work out, I've got an investor, and he's ready to start opening up Lucy's Donuts. So we'll get you in on that.
All right. Well, I want to let all of our listeners know that you guys should go over and join the movement that is to save Twin Peaks. You can go to the official Twin Peaks Cast Run site on Facebook by going to facebook.com/Save Twin Peaks. Also, all of the Twin Peaks fans are all over things like Twitter, so make sure that whenever you're tweeting any of your messages of support to include #Save Twin Peaks. And Kimmy, I hope everything works out. We really want to see Twin Peaks come back, but only if it's under the right conditions with everybody involved, including David.
Yes, thank you so much. Yeah, because we wanted to be that magic, like the rock drilling episode where, that David came back and would direct something and you just go, oh my God, this is so great. So yeah, but I hope it happens.
Absolutely, us
I
too.
have faith. If we all have faith, then it has to happen, right? Isn't that like a rule?
That's right.
It is.
That's right. I think if we all just believe it and manifest it, it'll happen.
I still can't get over. I still
Say
can't.
it out loud.
That's right.
I still can't get over that one saying that was made by at least you dated somebody in the group. We are not men. We are Devo.
Kimmy's thinking, shut up, Terry.
That guy is happily married with children and I think a grandchild now.
Wow.
So all is well. All is well.
All is well.
All right, Kimmy. Well, thank you so much for being on the show, and keep in touch with us. And hopefully we'll get together again soon. And we'd love to have you come back on later, especially if Showtime gets off their ass and makes things right with Twin Peaks.
Yeah, that would be great. And Terry?
Yes.
You're a troublemaker.
And that's why I love you. I really do.
All right. Thank you so much, Kimmy. Drive safely, okay?
Thank you, bye.
All right.
Talk to you later.
Talk to you later. Bye-bye, hon.
Bye.
Oh.
Hi, is this Kathleen?
Yes, it is.
All right, well, let me do the official introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, we are very excited to welcome our first guest for this evening. She is an actress and a musician, and we are so excited to welcome the one and only Kathleen Wilhoite to the show. You're on the air with Terry and Tiffany. Welcome.
Oh, hello.
You say you don't get like a lot from private school, but I do know that you were part of another iconic show. You only did a couple episodes, but you're still part of that, and you tend to do these conventions and get-togethers, and that was you were in Twin Peaks.
Oh, God, yeah. I had about 12 lines in one episode, maybe two episodes, and if you added up the lines, maybe 19 to 20 lines, and that's generous. So when they invited me to the Twin Peaks Festival, I was thrilled to have the plane ticket and the hotel room and to participate with all the cool people. But put it this way, on the last day when everyone sits at tables to get to give their autographs away, my buddy Jen, who's David Lynch's daughter, and she's one of my dearest friends, her line was like around the block. And I sat there at an empty table with my little handler person, just like, the person's like, oh, well, they just don't remember what episodes you were in. It's like, all right. really kind of freaking embarrassing.
Wow.
So I think the next year they didn't ask me up, because every time they ask me questions, I'm like, yeah, funny you should mention that. It was in the 80s, too, which I call the Dark Ages. I don't remember. I don't remember.
Well, friend of ours from WFDU Radio, and he does segments for the show here, said to ask you that if your character was still around, what do you think your character in Twin Peaks would be doing today?
Oh, you know what else they did at the Twin Peaks Festival? They called me by my character name, and I'm like, who? I don't remember the character's name. All right, so what would my character would be begging David Lynch to write me into the new revised Twin Peaks that's going to be so freaking cool. That's what my character would do, just banging on his door, please, give me a job, please.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hi, is this Michael?
Yes, it was really funny when we're going to call you back on another number. I'm just glad to get a number.
Oh, is this good, or do you want me to call you back privately and get a different number to call you on?
Oh no, it doesn't matter. Like I said, I'm just glad to get a number. Nobody ever calls me.
And we are glad to get you, Michael. I've been really sick this week, contemplating going to the hospital, but I would not do that because I could not miss talking to somebody that I idolize so much. It's one of the greatest Indian actors of all time.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Well, let me ask you a magic question that a lot of Twin Peaks actors squirm if I ask it, but I've got to ask because I know everybody is waiting for me to shake some secret out of you that possibly isn't even there, that possibly is not even happening. Has David Lynch approached you on doing something new?
No, and David is, I've known David since the 70s. I tell you, Russ Tamblyn and Dean Stockwell were my neighbors. I lived in Topanga Canyon, which was a magic place to live in the 70s.
Right.
And they came by one day with, they had Lynch with them, and I said, who's that guy? And they said, oh, he's a, and they showed me the film The Grandma, which makes Eraserhead look like Disney,
Really?
David doesn't even remember it. It was just a brief meeting. But I was, I didn't even want to be in the movies. I was kind of a half-ass stunt guy. I was the worst rodeo rider in the whole world. And I know people, I'm a pretty well-known native artist, a jeweler. Mm-hmm. And I kept that separate from the actor for years. And about the last 20 years, people go, oh, this is the same guy. But I was renting my art studio from an agent. And she came down and she said, you want to be Tonto and the Lone Ranger? And I went, no, I don't. I'm an American Indian member. And I knew Jay. Jay was a wonderful man. Even in that stereotypical role, he was the real deal. We loved him dearly.
So anyway, going on to David Lynch, and oh my God, I am such a fan. Now, I didn't know that you actually started with David Lynch before Twin Peaks. You did a short film for David Lynch.
Yeah, me and Harry Dean Stanton. Me and Harry Dean, the music, we've known each other for a billion years, and every time he would run into me, he'd act like he didn't remember who I was. And that's okay. The 60s was really good to Harry, I am, if I never did anything in my career, we changed the way that people process television.
Yes.
Yeah. Everything that's good on TV Peaks' DNA all over it.
Absolutely. I mean, Terry told me that he wanted me to try to explain it to you, but we are such big Twin Peaks fans, Michael, that we're sitting in our studio right now, and we fashioned our studio. We redesigned our entire studio to look like the Black Lodge. So we have the velvet curtains, we have the chevron floor, we don't have David Lynch money, so we couldn't get a full-size Venus de Milo, but we have an itty-bitty Venus de Milo. So, I mean, when I tell you that we're huge fans, I am not joking at all. But the thing about... Go ahead.
David is a true artist. People do stuff for the money, but that's not why David does it. It's in David's soul.
Right.
Well,
one of the things that you and I had talked about, and I wanted to discuss it on the air, we had talked about this off air a couple weeks ago, I wanted to get your opinion of what Indigenous people think or feel about David Lynch's interpretation of like the dreamland and kind of like mysticism, because you had mentioned to me that it's kind of very similar.
They love it. I have some friends that are huge famous Native American artists. And they are, there's one, a friend of mine, Tony Abeda, who is an amazing, you can Google him. His dad was a famous artist. He's a Navajo painter. He's just one of the best. And he's just fascinated by Twin Peaks. I mean, so many of the Native artists that I know that are contemporary, that are filmmakers, are such a fan of David's work because they understand that the dream world is just as real as the physical world.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how does David Lynch's storyline of Twin Peaks, in what parts of the series were something that was very similar to real Indian lore, such as there is a Black Lodge and there is a White Lodge, there's a good place and a bad place? How does that play into your mythology?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, there's, I'm the most, I was living in the Bay Area near Brick. I'm the most un-New Age guy in the whole freaking world, There's the Black Lodge is, that's a place of medicine, not good or bad. It's a place of medicine. But up in that area, I mean, there's places, that's another thing about Twin Peaks. A lot of films, the physical terrain becomes a character as much as the actors.
Right.
That was about John Ford stuff. I mean, Monument Valley, and it has an entity all to its own. But there's heavy medicine up at those places up there, and there's many legends of the Sky People among all Indigenous people, of the people that came from the stars.
Yes. Yeah.
And I don't know if people know the map. When we unroll the map, the on Hyde,
right?
That's my work.
Oh, it is.
I do it. You can. My wife has a website for anybody out there called Gathering Tribes. You can see my work on Gathering Tribes if anybody wants to look, and my jewelry's on there. And it's called ledger art. We used to paint on hides, and with our history book, our calendar, we could roll it up, take it with us when we go, and But David said, would you do the map? And I went, oh, sure. And she says, how much do you want? I'm like, oh, no, pal, it's a gift.
No.
And I don't have any of your work. All I want is a little drawing. And about 3 weeks after filming came one of his signed lithographs to me, which is a real treasure.
Wow. So when they were writing Twin Peaks, go ahead.
Yeah, David is the kindest, sweetest man. He's like Jimmy Stewart with Salvador Dali's intestines.
I was going to ask you what it was like. I mean, obviously, because you can be friends with somebody or even related to somebody, but when you go to work with somebody, it's a different story. So I was going to ask you what it was like to work with him and have David direct. I know David didn't direct every episode of Twin Peaks, but because a lot of times when you're dealing with somebody who is a genius, they can be quite difficult when they're directing.
David, the maddest I ever saw David ever get is Jim Belushi went off script, and David has one of the old-time megaphone kind of electric thing, and he goes, Mr. Belushi, you want to go to the principal's office?
I've often wondered as an actor, it's one thing to know this legendary man is directing you and head of the show along with Mark Frost. What's it like acting next to David Lynch? Did that make you more nervous when he was in scene with you as an actor?
No, there are no nerves. It's just a wonderful family of just and these brilliant actors like Grace Zabriskie and Piper Laurie and just they're so kind and so giving and me and Harry still talk to each other, and Kimmy and Dana and even after 25 years, I wonder how's this going to be. And it was really interesting. I get up there, the first thing I see in the woods, Kyle comes up and out of the woods in the black makeup.
Yeah.
And I went, okay. And he goes, Michael, how you been? And he's a big star. It's everybody was wonderful. Joan Chin was a little scary. He was dating Rutger Hauer, and Rutger Hauer was sitting next to me, and he kept looking at me like De Niro, going, "You looking at me?" No, sir.
Wow. Well, everybody was very disappointed when Michael Onkeen didn't come back for Showtime. Now, I understand he was quite sick. Is that why he didn't come back?
I think so. But, Mr. Frost, I'm getting a senior moment. The guy,
Robert Forster.
Forster, yeah. He was supposed to be the original sheriff.
Oh.
He was.
Yeah, he was doing something else. But it was so funny. 2 days of work, and he looks at me and goes, Michael, I don't get this. I go, you're not going to get it.
I was glad to hear you say that, because that was going to be my next question. And that, we talked to Angus Scrimm, who did a movie called Phantasm. And it's kind of like the Dream World thing, like Twin Peaks. And he said, don't try to understand it. You can't understand it. Am I fair to say that you don't really understand it all? And that's the way it should be?
Some of it I do, some of it I don't. There's wonderful references, but there's things in there and it's really funny. In the first season, the one where we're doing the Zen thing, where we're throwing rocks at the bottle.
Yes, yeah.
Well, David says, "Go get this bucket and pick it up." And I said, "Okay." He says, "No, put these oven mitts on." And I went, "Okay." And I go to grab the thing. He goes, "No, put the oven mitts and pick it up by the sides." And I went, "What the fuck does this mean?" Nothing. Just wanted to see you in oven mitts. And I don't know if you remember the old Kung Fu series when he finally graduated from the Kung Fu. He would grab this pot and he would burn those two dragons on the side. And I went Kung Fu, and they both laughed.
Yeah.
And me and Mr. Frost have a real relationship too. I mean, he had great insight into my character also.
Did David Lynch or Mark Frost, did they ever ask for any input as to writing of the script from you?
They would ask from time to time. They would, they go, "Is this, what do you think of this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's okay," because I won't do stupid shit. I don't care who.
I don't blame you. Right.
But yeah, no, nobody. We didn't have any problems, And it was really interesting. People, when we didn't get any Academy Awards, any Emmys, so they said, "You didn't get any Emmys." I go, "Look, nobody's going to know or care who won the Emmy, 10 years from now. But they're going to study that episode 8 about the atomic bomb, the black and white one. They're going to study that in film school for eternity."
Well, and the thing that's great about Twin Peaks and in general a lot of David's work, but it's one of those things to where you can watch it every multiple times, and every time you watch it, you'll pick out some other nuance that you didn't realize was there before.
It's really interesting that kids like it. I'm fascinated by that because it's slow. It's really, really slow.
Right.
And I wonder why. And I realize you can't multitask and watch Twin Peaks.
No.
You can't be on your phone. You can't be talking to your friends. You have to get into David's world.
Right.
And I think that fascinates young people.
Yeah. Now,
well, I'll tell you,
in knowing that Twin Peaks was, as you mentioned, very groundbreaking, and it did, it has kind of spilled over and influenced so many other projects. But at the time that Twin Peaks came out, it was on network television. It touched on a lot of topics that at the time were possibly taboo. Did you guys ever worry or get any flack or feedback for that? I mean,
let's put it this way. I think Deputy Hawk was the only one that didn't have sex with Laura Palmer. And that included her dad.
The network was scared to death. You can see him every day showing up going, he's a genius. And they're going, put this on like Sunday afternoon where nobody's watching. It was the death of it,
Do you think David Lynch and Mark Frost knew that talking or showing well, they showed it too. Incest on primetime television was a bit of a risk.
Oh, Mark knew, but David don't give a shit. He would say, David, you can't do this. And he goes, why? Why can't I do it?
Well,
Mark knew.
Well, you guys have such a following, and I know, do you still do the Twin Peaks days where you show up and meet your fans?
You know what? It's starting to piss me off. I would do the Twin Peaks Festival. There are all these... Nobody ever asked me.
Really?
What? Why?
Usually I'm kind of busy. I don't do a lot of that shit. But, the fans, I don't really need the money. The fans would like to see me, But no, all these Twin Peaks festivals, and I'm never asked.
Wow.
Well, that's not right. I mean,
I think
not only did, Deputy Hawk save Agent Cooper's ass a couple of times, but you're an integral part of the show, and you were part of the return, too, so you should definitely be there.
I went over to London to do it just, because it was a lark, and the fans were so excited to see me. But yeah, there's been 5 or 6 of these festivals, and during COVID, I'm not going to do any of that shit.
Right.
But I mean, the last 6 or 7 years is these festivals. I've never asked, and people go, well, sometimes I'll get on my Instagram and I go, man, I didn't ask the Hawk, and people go, well, we didn't know you wanted to do it. I go, well, nobody asked.
Yeah.
Well, we can't find you. I go, first-year film students in frickin' Nebraska can find me.
Right.
You can find me.
Right.
Yeah, we found you. Let me ask you a couple controversial questions, and if you don't want to answer, it's perfectly okay. A lot of people felt that because there was somewhat of a feud between David Lynch and Sherilyn Fenn, that when they brought the cast back for the Showtime thing, that he kind of maybe penalized her by putting her in a nut house. She wasn't acting with the rest of the cast. She was like segregated. Do you know anything about that? Sherilyn was a little disappointed because we had her on the show too, and she talked about it. She was a little upset.
She was really disappointed. And I don't hang with the people. Like I said, I'll talk to them. I don't hang with actors. I think she pushed David a little bit too hard.
Yeah, I agree. And then the other thing is there was one cast member, of course, Michael Onkeen was...
people ask me, you work with David? I go, David will call when it's in his head.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So what about go ahead.
Go ahead.
Onkeen?
Oh, okay. What about the situation to where there was always 2 people who was very important, and there was the giant, and he came back. We had him on the show. He's a great guy. But there was also a little guy that did not come back because he got in a major fight with David Lynch.
Michael J. Anderson.
What do you think about the situation when Michael J. Anderson didn't come back on?
Got to think about it.
You cut out a little bit. What was that?
I didn't know anything about it.
Yeah, I guess there was some huge feud, but we won't say one way or the other because we have no idea what's true and what's not.
People say, well, if the season had come back, and I would have done a cameo and just been, I would have done it for free.
Mm-hmm.
They were very generous in the character they wrote me. But some of these actors that push, it's like. Sabrina and I are really good friends, and I told her, I said, just, to be on David Lynch's palette,
right.
It's like, would I get pissed if Picasso said, I'm doing this great painting, and I'm going to do a little drawing of you down in the very corner? You're going to go, no, I want it bigger.
Right.
This, you should, and no, I don't, I people that push on David are stupid.
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
And it's true, and it works out because if you take a look at the return, obviously, Kyle MacLachlan was a huge part of it, but Hawk had a very big pivotal part of the return.
Oh no, they were really generous. I didn't expect to have that kind of. Like I said, if I would have just had a cameo and it would have been all new actors, I would have been, I would have loved to have done it. I would have probably done it for free.
Well, that was a kick-ass knife throw that you had in Twin Peaks. Is that something that you do? You're good at that, or?
Oh Yeah, I do. I do all that stuff. I did a lot of fights and stuff, and I still do a lot of that stuff. But my wife will watch this thing. She goes, "Why aren't you as cool as the Hawk?" I went, "Nobody's as cool as the Hawk."
That's right, and a good-looking guy to boot. I'm telling you, you still look good.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I still think it's insane that Showtime had even considered trying to bring Twin Peaks back without the involvement of David Lynch.
The deal of it is, a standard script is maybe 35, maybe 40 pages, right?
Right.
So David hands him like a 400-page, and they go, "We didn't tell you you'd have the money to do this." And he went, "Well, I ain't doing it then."
Now, let me ask you, because everybody who follows Twin Peaks at all was literally flabbergasted, because at the end of the first series, the statement was said, "I'll see you in 25 years." And we just thought, okay, that's just an artistic thing. It's just dialogue. It means nothing. It's just David Lynch, doing his, creative thing, and Mark Frost doing his creative thing. And then, son of a bitch, 25 years later, it comes back. What do you think, or do you know if that was something that David had actually planned, or did it just happen that way?
It came back after 25 years like they said it would.
Well, who in the hell knows, I think David didn't even really want to do it anymore. I think what I heard is Mark kind of talked him into it. He said, "David, we could use the money." And David went, "Okay, yeah. Yeah, but I don't. David and I are close. We have a lot of similarities. We both started as artists.
Mm-hmm.
We both around the same age, and came out of the 60s and 70s. So there's a lot of similarities. And one part of me, which is, I'm sure David's going through the same stuff, especially through COVID. It's like, I miss making films. I miss my Twin Peaks family. But I'm also really happy to just be in my studio creating art.
Now, I've got to ask you about Kimmy Robertson. I am totally and madly in love with her. I think she's got a crush on me, too. I'm not. She was at my house. She came to my house to see me. Yeah, she was at my house. I was flipping out. Here, I'm the big, fan of hers. I was shitting my pants. She was in the house. But the way she acts, she is so cute and so colorful, and she's like a human cartoon. But
she's very unassuming.
I know from her being at my house that she's that way in person. Am I right? I mean, she's...
Well, yeah. She's, and she's got a history. She was a dancer. She was would go on tour with big rock and rollers and stuff. Yeah, Kimmy has a whole history there. But yeah, Kimmy's a very unique individual, and we'll talk from time to time, and she has a lot of interesting theories on things, Miss Kimmy does.
Well, if you want to get more bookings and conventions and stuff, get a hold of her, because her and Deputy Andy's doing these all the time.
Well, I talk to them all the time. I still don't get invited.
Oh my! I'll have to give her a call about that. She'll be like old Terry.
I bitched to Harry the other day. There's two of them going on, and I said nobody called me.
Yeah.
And most of the time I don't even want to go. Yeah. But for a while there, I don't give a shit,
Right.
But then I went, the fans go, why don't you come to these? I go, nobody asked. I don't even get, my wife says, you want an Instagram? And I went, oh, not really. She goes, get an Instagram. And I go, look, me and Sting hanging out together. I have 175 likes. She goes, your cat Carlos has over 6,000.
Oh, I've got to ask you.
What's funny is I was on your Instagram, Michael, and I saw all the great photos you have up there. I saw the photo that you have, with various celebrities. And the thing I told Terry about was your cat, Carlos.
Yeah. I will pose Carlos in different Twin Peaks situations. When we went to Europe, people go, did Carlos come? No, Carlos didn't come. I came home, my suitcase was full of cat toys that people were bringing to Carlos.
Now, we were talking to Kimmy about the actress that portrayed the log lady, Catherine Coulson, and she unfortunately died. And when she did the Showtime show, she knew she was dying, but she had to come back with the fans. It's something that she wanted. And Kimmy couldn't even finish talking about it. She said it was so heartbreaking having to go through that. Were you on set that day?
Yeah, but I mean, when I got to say goodbye to her, You know, I mean, people go, "Why didn't you cry?" I go, "I couldn't. I just wanted to portray how brave she was."
Yeah, because it was you and her that was in the scene,
I knew Jack really well. What was interesting also, the agent that handled me when I was renting an art studio for her handled Jack. And one day, you know, I'm not even in the movie business really, and I get Jack and I go, "Hey Jack, I'm a pretty out there dude. What the hell did Eraserhead mean?" And I have a picture of Jack from Eraserhead says, "Figure it out yet, love Jack." Everything made sense through Jack's eyes.
Yeah.
Right.
And me and Everett, me and Big Ed would hang out, and I go, "Everett, man, do you get what's going on here?" He goes, "No, let's go ask Jack." and Jack would explain it, and it made sense.
Oh.
Yeah.
You see, that's what I like about David Lynch and loyalty. Like, him and Jack go way back, and they wind up in almost everything David Lynch does. And the only problem David Lynch worried about Jack with, I guess Jack was quite a racist.
No, yeah. Yeah, Jack was an interesting guy.
So, what other Twin Peaks cast members would you like to comment on? Which ones did you like the best? Was there any you didn't like?
Well, that's hard.
I know it's hard, but I put people on the spot.
I love Dana, and to see Dana grow up, that character grow up and become a deputy, and Dana and I talk all. We're probably the closest. I just love him. He's the sweetest, kindest guy, and I love Harry. You know, I mean, Harry disappeared.
Yeah.
And I go, "Where's Harry?" And he said, "He's herding cattle on a cattle ranch in New Mexico." And I went, no, and he was.
Wow.
You know, he had this friend at a cattle ranch, and he was working. I love Harry.
What about? Yeah, it was a great scene when you guys figured it out and finally arrested him. What was Ray Wise like to work with?
Oh, Ray's just a pro, and again, somebody with that talent is so kind and so giving. Quick Twin Peaks story: when we finally get Bob out of Ray, we're getting Bob. That spirit is coming out of Ray, right?
Yeah.
And we're all in that room. And again, I'm the most underage guy in the world, but I don't want to be calling on those kind of things.
Right.
And they said somebody should go for help. I went, I'll go.
Yeah.
Michael Parks and I were old friends too, and Michael Parks is a tough dude, right?
Well, let me tell you, Michael Parks would kick your ass. It's too bad he passed away.
Michael Parks is supposed to be dead, right, laying there. And Lynch goes kick him and make sure he's dead. And Michael and I, we know each other. We would ride bikes together and stuff. He looks up with one eye like, "You kick me, I'll kill you." Oh, no, he's dead, dude. He's dead, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Now, one of the things that a lot of Twin Peaks fans always talk about is the fact that Frank Silva, who ended up playing Bob, he wasn't an actor, right? He was just a crew member.
No, he was a set decorator, and he raised his head up one day, like from the bed, and David goes, "That's Bob," and Frank went, "Oh no, please, David."
God, I wish I had luck like that. Geez. So, is there any one single figure in Indian lore that's like or similar to what a Bob would be?
Oh, many. Oh, yeah. You know, I mean, you know. The whole spectrum of the human experience and of the people in the spirit world, and you know, I mean, most of the ceremonies, especially the Pueblo ceremonies and Yaqui ceremonies, are this big, huge psychodrama that's going on, and there's, you know, definitely characters of evil, and you know, people will come in dances with masks and stuff representing that part of the human condition. Yeah.
Right.
Well, I wanted to ask you this for sure. David's quite up in age. He's still doing well. I watch his videos talk about his projects, and he gives the day and the date and the weather and all that on YouTube. But knowing his age and stuff, and knowing, at least so far, he only does Twin Peaks every 25 years, is there a possibility that it could come back before David's gone?
I hope so.
Yeah.
David's one of those people, that will have art projects in his head till the day that he goes.
Right.
And I'm sure he will. David's laying pretty low, which is smart right now. You have, that's pretty scary, but I think so, and I hope so. And like I said, I would come and do one line for David. When we were doing the new episodes, people would come down to where we were filming, found out the writers and directors, and they said, "Look, we don't want to disturb Mr. Lynch. We just want to shake his hand." Yeah. And crew members that were retired from working came back to work with David one more time. I mean, as I tell actors, I said, if you ever get the opportunity to work with somebody like David, I mean, you don't get to work with somebody that does art like that. It's just, and he's kind. I mean, I worked for some guys that were real. I mean, they're real assholes.
Yeah.
We've almost gone to blows with people, but I'll go over to the crew and I go, "Is that guy that good?" And they go, "Yeah." And I said, I'll go up to him and say, "Look, you can treat me like this, but this better be Emmy quality shit when I see it, or I'm gonna whoop your ass."
Right.
Well, I'm so
put up with that, but David's such a kind man.
I'm so glad you got to know Dean Stockwell.
Dean and I were friends. Dean and I and Russ, we were neighbors. They would tell me stories. I mean, they were child actors back in the day,
Yeah, we were. We mentioned that because we never got a chance to talk to Dean, but we were huge Dean. We are huge Dean Stockwell fans, and it hit us really hard when he passed last year.
It's too bad that Dean wasn't in Twin Peaks, because I know Harry Dean Stanton was, but.
Yeah, no, Dean is, Dean was, and they came up one day with Dennis Hopper.
Oh,
okay. But no, they and Russ is, I used to see Russ, and living in Topanga Canyon was just, everybody lived up there. Neil Young was up there, and Billy Thornton was up there at one time, and a lot of actors and stuff were up there.
We're big fans as well of the X-Files, and I think more than once Chris Carter has been influenced by Twin Peaks. Obviously, David Duchovny is a connection between Twin Peaks and the X-Files, but you were on the X-Files as well as other Twin Peaks actors have been. What was it like being on the X-Files, and what was it like working again with David and seeing David on set again?
Well, when David wasn't a big star when he played Denise, right?
No, right.
The crew's kind of look at him like, "Is this a real drag queen?" Or I'm hanging out with my arm around him and shit. So I take a picture of me and Denise, right? And one of the, if I known Twin Peaks was going to be huge, I would have stolen everything that wasn't on the set, But I had a Polaroid. So when I did X-Files, I said, "You know, I used to date David's sister." I'm in the and they go, "We didn't know he had a sister." I go, "Yeah, it's just me and David's sister." So he comes in, they go, "We didn't know you had a sister." And he goes, "That's me, you idiot."
When he came out dressed in a drag on Twin Peaks, did he act embarrassed? Were you guys all laughing at him, or what?
No, not at all. No. I mean, it's he was, there's another guy that's so sweet and so kind and so giving and so smart, And Carter, I mean, the one I did a couple of the X-Files, but the one with the werewolf, Carter told me that was one of the only two real government X-File cases.
Really?
And his favorite line, he said, is when they go into the bar, there's an old native guy in the very back goes, "Go home, FBI."
There you go. Well, one of my favorite moments of Twin Peaks I got to mention was when they had a reunion with two of the Mod Squad cast members, Peggy Lipton and Clarence Williams III. That was magic.
I was laughing at Clarence. He's in the Mountie uniform. Because he laughing and go, "You ever been to Canada?" He goes, "No." "You ever see a black Mountie?"
Oh, man.
He goes, "Do they have any?" I go, I've never seen one. I don't know anybody that's ever seen one. I'm sure they are now, but they didn't back then.
Right.
You know?
I mean, talk about an actor who's intense. So many of his roles, I'm just like, I sit back and I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
And thank God to David Lynch for bringing Peggy Lipton out of retirement, because she did a whole music thing. I got a couple of her record albums. She was married to Quincy Jones and raising her kid, but she didn't do anything for a long time. And thanks to David Lynch, we got her back. Unfortunately, we've now lost her. I was so heartbroken.
Yeah, I got a chance to see her before she passed. Like I said, the Twin Peaks family, everybody, we knew we were doing something really special at the time, but we had coming back 25 years of realizing, and the Twin Peaks fans are the greatest fans. My wife goes, your fans are so sweet and so polite and so smart. My Walker, Texas Ranger fans scare me. They go, will you sign my baby? No. Baby?
Well, if you're really bored after the interview, if you get Peacock there, make sure you tune in to Kyle MacLachlan's new show, which is about the Tiger King. But he's been pretty good. He's playing. He's been playing her husband.
I've got to see that. You know, what an interesting that. Yeah, I'm waiting to download that and see it. You know.
Well, let's pray Twin Peaks comes back. I don't want Kyle left in that alternate universe. Because talk about cliffhangers. David kills you with he don't even know the show's ever coming back. He didn't know the first time, and he left everybody hanging when Kyle smashed his face into that mirror. I mean, man, I'm in agony.
He doesn't mean to be hanging. It's just, I mean, Twin Peaks, it's alive. It has and it grew. I don't think that they knew where they were going with it. But I wouldn't give up on another one. Like I said, I'd like the Hawk to die and go up in the spirit world. And complain to the Twin Peaks festivals why nobody wants the Hawk.
What the hell?
I think I would not put this past them, because the Twin Peaks fans, as you said, are great and loyal and mighty. I think that there should be some kind of a petition or a movement. Like, this needs to stop. This is not right.
Yeah. I didn't really. A lot of times I didn't want to do it, and a lot of times I'm just busy, but now my feelings are going to hurt.
Well, I know that there's a couple that everybody has tried to say was hard to, a couple of actors that they said were kind of reclusive. One of them was Big Ed. They said that he's really hard to get a hold of. I don't know if that's true or not, but I've never heard that about you.
I couldn't even get a hold of Everett.
David Lynch actually did, because he said in an interview that when he was trying to get everybody together for the Showtime revival, that he kept calling and couldn't get a number, and he happened to call a phone number that was a cabin in the woods in Canada or something, and Big Ed was just there renovating the place and happened to pick up the phone. Other than that, David had no other contact.
Yeah, he's a pretty reclusive guy.
You got to see. I don't know if you've seen it or not. You got to see Everett and his cohort in Twin Peaks in a movie called People Under the Stairs. That's awesome.
Oh yeah. That's a really Have you seen that Michael Parks movie Tusks?
I don't believe so.
I haven't
but
seen
I
it.
used to watch. What was his old TV series where he rode a motorcycle? Then came Bronson. Yes, I was a big fan of that.
Tusk is the weirdest, strangest movie ever made.
Really?
Ever.
Really?
Oh, it's just so wrong. It takes a lot to shock me, tell you. And I'm watching it thing going, oh God, it's really twisted. But I think that's
more fucked up than Eraserhead, huh?
Oh, it makes Eraserhead look like Disney.
Well, now that I've achieved my dream of talking to you, it's been such an honor. If my second dream can become fulfilled someday, and to have you in my Black Lodge theme studio up in the mountains of Lake Hughes, California, that would be great.
Oh yeah. Where's Lake Hughes again? I know and I don't know.
So do you know where Santa Clarita is in California? Like where Six Flags is?
Yeah, I grew up in San Fernando.
Okay, so if you go up San Francisco Canyon, if you go up about 30 miles into the Angeles National Forest, that's where we're at.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, cool. Yeah, well, sometime, I'll give you a call. That's your other number?
Yes, that's the other number.
Except the only problem is you become part of the collection, because I got all this Twin Peaks stuff, so we couldn't let you go home. You'd have to live here.
Well, I'll bring you something to do. It's really funny. This time when I was filming, they were watching me, because I'll steal everything and isn't nailed down, you know. And they go, Michael, what's in the bag? Nothing. We're going to look in the bag, Michael. All right.
You know, I got to admit, I was an actor on The West Wing, and I stole something. So, and do you worry about it? I still worry about it.
I steal the backs of really obscure actors' chairs. Ann Southern, you know. So
what was funny is
what did you steal from Twin Peaks?
I'm not going to say.
Okay.
Yeah, hi.
All right, everyone. We are very excited to welcome our featured guest for this evening. He is an actor and has done actually so much more that we want to talk about tonight, a little bit about his history and his interests as well. Of course, you know him from popular projects like Twin Peaks and, of course, the Addams Family movies. We are very excited to welcome actor Carel Struycken to our show. Carel, welcome. You're on the air with Terry and Tiffany.
Well, hi there.
Now, in kind of talking about unusual speech patterns that you may have had to have done throughout your career, I have to, of course, bring up Twin Peaks. So, actually, in Twin Peaks, and we'll get more into Twin Peaks in a second, but you had to learn to talk backwards, right?
Right.
So,
and the first, so in 92 or 93, the little Mike, the little person who was part of the Red Lodge.
Yeah, Michael Anderson.
Yeah, Michael Anderson.
You could throw any line at him, and he could say it backwards instantly. He didn't even have to think about it.
I guess it was kind of off the cuff. David Lynch said to him, well, you've got to speak backwards, and he was like, no problem, which was very surprising. Yeah, it's not something that people usually can do. I mean, it's amazing. How hard was it for Michael to teach it to you?
Well, I think he just recorded it, and then we had to kind of copy the recording. So I think he didn't have to stand there while we were learning it. Mm-hmm. On the second time around, oh God, my voice. The second time around, 3 years ago, there was no Michael Anderson.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, we wanted to mention, because loved your appearance in Twin Peaks so much. I was so glad to find out that you actually came back for the Showtime thing. And we were talking about how David Lynch had you talk backwards. And I wanted to get more of that into the show, talking about Michael. Now, Michael, who played the little guy, or the man from the other world, as they called him, actually taught everybody how to talk backwards, because it's something I guess he did naturally. It's not something you expect from everybody every day, but it's something he did. He taught you. But then when you came back for the revival on Showtime, he wasn't there. And what kind of a challenge was it for you to learn to talk backwards without him teaching you?
Well, it turns out there's an app for that.
Wow, there's an app for everything.
So I forget what it's called. I used to have it on my iPad, but anyhow, it's you talk, and then it speaks back. It gives you it speaks back to you in reverse, and then I kind of phonetically made a note of that, and try to learn it that way.
What's even more amazing than the fact that people like Michael knew how to do that naturally was the fact that somebody actually made an app for doing it.
Yeah. I wonder how that kind of app is usually used.
I don't think it would work real well at Walmart. I don't know. Who knows what it is.
No.
Okay, when you did the talking backwards thing, I mean, was it a process? I'm trying to get into my head. I know you talked about using an app, but did you kind of like listen to it on the app for every line of dialogue you had and just like repeated that back on film right away, or how was that done?
Yeah, well, it's kind of weird because a lot of words, when you speak them backwards, they sound not only backwards, but the emphasis is on different parts of the word that you expect it to be, and so it's really weird. And I could only get a handle on it by also writing it out phonetically, and so looking at it and listening to the app and rehearsing it that way.
Oh. Yeah. I don't suppose there's any dialogue. Can you remember any of it?
Certainly not backwards, no.
It's like the job's done, I'll do it again in 25 years when it comes back, because we get Twin Peaks every 25 years. The thing
it was funny because it's they were so secretive about the script that I got the lines handed over to me, scribbled on a little piece of paper. And then it was like, okay, go learn your line and come back.
I think it's incredible that, we got Twin Peaks again. I wanted to find out, though, there's something that really confused me, and who can better tell me than you, unless by chance you don't know. I don't know, because some actors that are in some vehicles can't always figure out what's going on. I know we talked to the guy from Phantasm, which is Angus Scrim, and he said he had no idea what was going on. But in the original Twin Peaks, you played a character everybody referred to, such as Kyle MacLachlan would refer to you as the Giant. And then in the sequel, if you want to call it the sequel, or the revival from Showtime, you were known as the Fireman. Now, was there a reason for that? Were you the same character? Were you two different characters? What was the situation with that?
I don't know why he was called the Fireman, except for that he makes an effort to kind of set things straight, right?
Right.
But I saw it as the same character, so that was my own take on it. But it's not as if we were told how that worked.
Right.
So, which did you prefer more? Was your role in the original, or I think like what you did in the Showtime thing was much more expanded. Maybe it was because Michael wasn't there, so you got like a lot of extra scenes and stuff. And aesthetically, with the sets and the background where you were, I think it was better. But which did you prefer doing?
Well, in the second one, I got to be a god, right? So
hey.
Now, let me ask you about your scenes that you did in Twin Peaks: The Return with Joy Nash, because they were beautifully shot. I know, Carel, that you yourself are into photography. So what was it like shooting those scenes? I mean, I'm talking about hopefully everybody's seen it at this point, but the scenes with the orbs and you're in this ornate, beautiful theater. Did you have any input at all? What was it like working with David Lynch on those scenes, which were just so aesthetically gorgeous?
Yeah, it looked beautiful. It was shot in a defunct old theater downtown.
Awesome.
In downtown Los Angeles, and they had kind of I think just with a spray or so, they sprayed this pattern on the floor, and nowadays with these video cameras you hardly need any light anymore, which is pretty amazing. So we were instructed to look at the screen and to look at the orb, and I just had the sense that something important was happening, but I didn't know what.
Right.
Actors pretty much vary on that point of, not actually seeing what's there because they put that in later. Is that easy for you or hard? Some say it's easier, some say it's harder.
Well, in this case it was easy. It gets difficult when you, like when they do an over-shoulder shot, the camera operator always tells you to look in a certain direction, and it's almost never to look at the person you're talking to.
Right.
And that is a very weird feeling to to talk to somebody, to communicate with somebody and not look at them.
Right.
Yeah.
I love the part of the orb because, like I said, I mentioned, I'm just like reaching out here. I doubt if it's true, but being a fan of the movie Phantasm, did anybody say anything to you that the orbs in the Twin Peaks, The Return, was kind of a nod to Phantasm that David Lynch was getting? Because they had the orbs in Phantasm too.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I don't know if David Lynch ever saw Phantasm, but yeah, it was an orb.
Right.
My final question is I've got to know, because we're major Twin Peaks fans. We're sitting here in the radio studio. We have it dressed like the Black Lodge, with the chevron rug and everything. So we're one of those crazy people that come up and ask you for your autograph that you think should be in therapy or whatever. But, the thing that really freaked us out about the whole Twin Peaks thing is Cheryl Lee, in the beginning, the end of the beginning of the first series, had said, "I'll see you in 25 years." And then I'll be damned, but 25 years later, Twin Peaks comes back around again. Do you think there is ever a chance? I know, that David's a little up in age, but he's certainly, still kicking and feeling good and still is in the game. Do you think there could ever be a chance, with or without David Lynch, that there could ever be another return to Twin Peaks?
Well, first of all, I don't think it could be done without David Lynch.
Yeah, I agree.
And the first time around, he did a few episodes, but a lot of other ones were done by other directors, right?
And while they were good, you could tell because David Lynch was the best at directing that show.
Right.
Yeah.
But this time around, he did everything.
Right.
And after that, he had to do the post-production of this gigantic, it's basically one movie, right? So this gigantic movie, and I think that probably, I'm guessing, that took a lot out of him. So I don't know if he wants to do another one like that. Maybe another feature.
Yeah.
I know you did a lot of your scenes with Kyle MacLachlan. You guys get along pretty well off camera. I mean, could I ever run into you guys at Denny's or something sometime together?
Well, he's easy to get along with, so that's no problem.
Yeah.
I think nowadays he hangs out a lot in where is it, Oregon or so, where he has his wine.
Yeah.
His winery.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much he is in Los Angeles, but yeah.
Do you do the Twin Peaks Day thing that they have, like Twin Peaks Day?
Twin Peaks Day
like
thing?
the festival, the Twin Peaks festival.
The festival where they all get together. The last time it was at Graceland in Memphis at Elvis's mansion. They all get together, have like a convention thing. Do you ever do those?
No, I've done a few Twin Peaks conventions, but they were in Washington State. Around Seattle.
Yeah, exactly.
They are the best conventions. Usually a rather small group, but you have picnics on all the different areas where they shot the movie or shot the series, and it's really nice. So I always love being invited for those things.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, Lenny. How are you?
I'm very well. Good evening, Tiffany.
Good evening.
How are you?
I'm well. Let me do the official introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, we are very excited to welcome our featured guest for this evening. He is an actor who many remember from so many great films, Tender Mercies, Electric Dreams, and of course, as Harold Smith from Twin Peaks, the series, and Fire Walk with Me. We're very excited to welcome the one and only Lenny Von Dohlen. You're on the air with Terry and Tiffany. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
Well, you know, you're great in everything you do. You even tried sci-fi. You was in an episode of the Orville. But I'm telling you, man, where your forte is showing emotion. You have the greatest depth of emotion of any actor I've ever seen.
Oh my gosh!
You make me cry. That's hard to do. Okay.
All right. Well, I have to. In talking about depth of emotion, and also talking about real character-driven pieces, this is a perfect opportunity to start talking about Twin Peaks. Harold Smith operates on so many different levels as a character. Tell me about how you got Twin Peaks, how the audition was. Did you have any clue about the show at all before you went in to read for it?
No, and what a dummy I was. I mean, what rock was I living under? But I had not seen the series yet, and so when I got the part, they sent up all the tapes of the shows that had been done so far. You know, that tells you how long ago it was. They were VHS tapes. And I watched them all, and wow, my head exploded. Right. I thought, this is not television as I knew it. And I was very eager to jump in after that. And then, of course, I got to work with not only Mr. Lynch, but all these different directors, Leslie Glatter and Leslie Lincoln Glatter, I should say, and Tom Holland, and with wonderful directors, and to explore that thing of being isolated and afraid of going out. And I used to joke that anybody who contemplated getting on the Hollywood freeway would be an agoraphobic guy. But yes. I did have to go into a deep dive about what that's like. You know, that's not something I ever knew about, and I talked to people who have this issue, and they were very open with me, and that was so helpful. And God bless them. Yeah. God bless them.
Were you worried? I wanted to find out. Yeah, we had on just before you, Michael Horse, who's Chief Deputy Hawk, who's the one that found you dead. He actually found your body hanging. He said that he was only concerned about Twin Peaks and the fact that CBS was scared to death of that show because of the topic of incest. Yeah, incest and everything that went on with the wonderful Sherilyn. We'll talk about her because I know you're close friends. But were you concerned about that? I mean, were you worried that, you know, approaching a subject they never approached on TV?
David definitely pushed limits. David and Mark Frost definitely pushed boundaries.
Without a doubt. They created a whole new landscape, or a dreamscape, I should say. And it's what visionaries do. Right. And they were, miracle of miracles, able to translate that to the screen. You know, you can write all kinds of wild and innovative things, but they don't always translate. And that was a miracle, because it went right from the page to the screen to the people's hearts. And it was, that's been interesting to find this really advanced in their thinking, in my experience, these Twin Peaks fans and aficionados. I think I've met them all over the globe, and they always amaze me. They know far more about it all than me, but they're so bright, and they have a, you know, that aesthetic it sings to them, you know, and it sounds like maybe it sings to you guys too.
Absolutely.
It's a special thing, and the other day I was driving home, and it was early in the morning, and David came on the radio and said,
doing the weather.
Yeah, and then he played this great song, and I thought, my God, do I have another reason to be glad I live here? Yeah, that's one. And I mean, because it was such a surprise. I didn't know. I didn't know he was doing that. Yeah. Now I know he does it every day, and I try to listen to it when I can. One time, it's not the last time I saw him, because I saw him at the. We were all at the Missing Pieces screening that he did, and but the time before that I saw him, we were both at a red light on Franklin, and I turned and looked, and I saw that hair, you know, is that David? And he turned and saw me, and then before we could even open our mouths, the light turned green, and, you know, we had to go. Right. So what do you do? It's Los Angeles.
You know, he has Texas roots as well, and maybe it was because of that, but I am very, you know, I'm proud of you, and I don't know how you did it. I wouldn't have had the balls to do it, to where you actually suggested to David that a few of your scenes go differently, such as your death, and such as other things. Situation with the hole, the garden hole,
the towel,
the towel approaching the girls, and your death. You wanted it differently. How did that go with talking to David?
Oh, well, the moral to that story is don't have any great ideas at the last minute. And the reason is because, I don't know, it just occurred to me, by that time I was so sick into the density of that world, you know, and so I was kind of channeling whatever that was of him, and so when that came up, it just didn't seem right, and I thought, why doesn't it seem right? And then it occurred to me that he would take the one solace and comfort that never left him. He'd take it with him, and he'd take all the orchids, and that if they could all just go together with some carbon monoxide seeping in, and that gorgeous music by Angelo, well, that could be pretty.
Yeah. Right.
And more in keeping with his spirit. But David said, we built the raptor, we're going to hang you. So they hung it.
Oh, man. Well, was that you or was that a dummy?
I can't tell that to you right now.
Okay. Well, if it was you did a good job. I didn't see you move.
In the series, most of your scenes were with Laura Flynn Boyle, but you did work a little bit with Cheryl Lee, not as Laura, but as a different character. But in Fire Walk with Me, right. I want to talk about your scene with Cheryl Lee as Laura in that, because it was a very in-depth scene and very emotional. I think it's interesting that, in my opinion, I think the pairing of David Lynch directing along with you, who really cares about the character and the depth of the character, was a perfect match, because there seems to be so much more than what's on the surface. So tell us a little bit about the scene that you did with Cheryl in Fire Walk with Me, and what it was like filming that. It seemed very intense.
Indeed, it was. I remember that day so well because, you know, it was one scene. I got there, as is my habit since Tender Mercies, very early. And so, walking down the hall, who do I run into in a red fright wig? But none other than the great David Bowie.
Oh, God.
And I just thought, my God, this is the way this day is going to start. And what happened was, this happens a lot in TV and movies that get behind. And so we didn't get to that scene till very, very late at night. I mean, after midnight. And the crew was, amazing, but they just had been going nonstop. And Miss Lee and I were on simmer for about, 7 or 8 hours, holding all this stuff and checking in on each other now and then. And finally we got to set, and I hear David shout across the hall to this DP, "Deepak, never schedule the most important scene in the movie for 3 a.m. And that of course was a sweet way for him to get us up for this job, and it got everybody focused, and God, what a pleasure, to go out on a high wire and know that you're safe. You can do a triple spin, whatever, and it's just fine if you fall flat on your face, because you're in a safe environment, and you don't get to work that way very much. And I loved it. And at the end of that, we were both pretty spent, as you might imagine, and out of the corner of my eye, I told this story before, I saw this movement, and I looked, and it was David doing a kind of tall leprechaun version of a jig. And he was sort of celebrating what had happened. The whole day was finally over, but it also seemed like he was saying, this just happened. Let's do a little dance about it. And I thought, oh man, that's what it's about.
Right.
Yeah.
I understand you're still friends with Sheryl Lee, is that right?
Oh yes, for life.
Hello.
Hi, is this Candy?
It is.
All right, well, let me do the official introduction, ladies and gentlemen. We are very excited to welcome our featured guest for this evening. She is a model and an actress who you know from films like The Man Who Fell to Earth, American Graffiti, and more American Graffiti. And she's joining us tonight to talk about the new film, Cold Moon. We're very excited to welcome the one and only Miss Candy Clark to the show. You're on the air with Terry and Tiffany. Welcome.
Yay.
Yay.
It is such
anyway, you said I'm a model, but I'm no longer a model. The last time I was a model was like 1972.
Well, once a model, always a model. You're more of a model than I've ever been.
That's true.
I've got to ask you, because we mentioned Twin Peaks, and if you wouldn't mind on commenting on it a little bit. We actually kind of modeled our new studio here after the Red Lodge, after the Black Lodge in Twin Peaks, and we're big fans. What do you think about your character you got to play? And a lot of fans are a little puzzled about your storyline, because it was kind of left unresolved, wasn't it?
Well, I think all the storylines were left unresolved. A lot of threads were dropped. If it ever gets picked up and we get to go in for a second year, I haven't heard anything, but I would like the camera to go into my house with my husband, the sheriff,
yes,
and see the black mold going down the walls, the dog shit everywhere, the diarrhea, and all this stuff that I'm talking about, and see how we really live, and that I'm not just off the wall complaining. It's real.
Yeah, because the way it was when they didn't show anything, you just kind of came off really bitchy. I mean, in a way.
I know, but I'm at the end of my rope with this man. God, you would be too. Nothing gets done.
Well, I know I saw some publicity photos of you and the great Robert Forrester, and you look like you guys were getting along pretty well.
It wasn't that hard to do, and the only thing that was difficult about my character was learning the dialogue, because my character didn't stay on topic. She would go,
subject to subject to subject to subject, and memorizing that without, it was just kind of like a monologue of gripes. So, I had to remember about the dad's car, the dog with the diarrhea, the mold that's growing, the broken pipe. It was just like, wow.
I don't dare ask you to explain the ending because you probably don't understand it any more than anybody else did, so I'll refrain from that question.
But what was it like working with David Lynch? I mean,
That was a real treat. And, it's like, he's a man of mystery to me. Mm-hmm. I didn't really get to know him or hang out with him. I was only there for a couple of days.
Right.
I don't really know him socially or around town. You don't see him out and about much. So he's just a man of mystery. What I found fascinating was, I'm all dressed. I'm in my my outfit. Mm-hmm. And I come out of my trailer and I go on the set. And it's a real location, it's like a real office. Mm-hmm. Old-timey kind of office place with wood paneling and all. And I go in and, I'm running the lines and I crash in the door and I'm in the room and there's David Lynch in this small room in the corner, and it's not a very big room, and he's got one of those megaphones. I started laughing because he's only a couple of feet away and he's talking through one of those megaphones. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm seeing this. Yeah, that was quirky.
Jim Belushi liked to tell the story that he would improv once in a while and David would get mad and he'd get on his megaphone and go, Mr. Belushi.
I know, it's like so quirky. But, I guess he's trying to save his voice. He knows he's going to be shooting for a long time.
Did he...
he talks through a megaphone.
Did David Lynch tell you... I almost had to believe that David Lynch was a fan of The Man Who Fell to Earth. Did he ever mention
it? He was.
Yeah.
I think he was, and that's why I had David Bowie on the old series. And I think he was planning on having David Bowie on the newer series, but of course, that never happened.
Right.
But it was a real treat working with the famous David Lynch. He's a painter, he's an artist, and I really loved Eraserhead.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And Blue Velvet, and a lot of darn, what was it? I am not an animal.
The Elephant Man.
Elephant Man.
What was that one?
The Elephant Man.
Elephant Man. Yeah. Oh my God. One of my favorite films of all time. So sad.
So sad.
I almost have to believe that when you were offered Twin Peaks, which I imagine was before David passed, were you thinking about having a reunion? Because I know you hadn't talked to him in a while.
No, I got the part after David.
All right.
He was no longer.
Oh, that's too bad. You got to promise me that you'll get a hold of us if you hear anything about Twin Peaks coming back.
Okay,
yes.
I will.